Denis Duri, my best friend in the world. I love you heaps, and thank you for doing the show, which I think I'm going to name, not exactly sure, but the working title for that is STFU, stuff for Ubernerds. And the title for this episode number one, funnily enough, is I work for $1 billion US tech company from regional Australia, sometimes in my underwear. So, Denis Duri, who are you? What do you do? And how did you get the job that many, many people want?
Well, sometimes in my underwear, understatement. Sometimes I don't wear underwear. No, just kidding. Look, so obviously Dennis Duri, I've known Dexter for 20 plus years. We went to high school together, so it's been
Way
a
too
long
long.
time. Well, what do I do? I've been a tech nerd for years. So first job out of school was IT, and that was for Hewlett Packard. So I've been in this for years, overclocking PCs, breaking stuff, fixing stuff. Right now, I am a solution consultant, a pre-sales engineer. So that just essentially means I speak to customers daily and just to understand what they're doing, how they're doing things, how can we help them. And this is all around cloud primarily and automation orchestration. So, how do we help their users get ROI without having administrators do stuff for them? Because you and I both know that an admin costs a fortune, end user doesn't cost a fortune. So can they click a button and they get something delivered? Press button, receive bacon, sort of deal.
Okay, before we
So
get any further, let me know how bad the background noise gets. Of all the days that we decide to do this, there's a dude that's deciding to chop half the trees down from his garden. So I've got noise cancelling headphones on and I can still hear his chainsaw going. If it gets bad, let me know. And dude, this is the first time we've done this. And I know that this is not how you speak. So just imagine that no one else is going to listen to this. We might not even publish it, but I might and just not tell you. So let's talk it that same way. So who do you do all this work for?
I work for Flexera. So funnily enough, so it was Snow Software, that's the t-shirt, acquired in the last couple of months. So it just means that I now work for Flexera doing the same thing, just speaking to a broader base of customers. So it's good. So enjoying it.
So
You know
so
who
give
Flexera
me
is?
I don't, but you can tell me about that later on. So tell me about pre-sales. I've only really been in corporate IT when you and I were working in it together, and I never. That was kind of the highest that I got in terms of corporate IT, enterprise IT. So in pre-sales, where does that sit amongst say marketing, event sales, and then pre-sales? How does that all fit in?
Yeah, so the sales guys usually get a potential customer and they'll qualify them. So imagine having a chat like this saying, hey, so what do you do? What are the problems do you have? How do you do it today? How much do you spend? What does it mean to you? So that's the sales side. We want to sell you something and make money is what a sales guy's essentially doing. And what happens is once they say, okay, we think we can help you, I'll get someone like me to come in and say, all right, so what is it you do? This is how we can do it better. What's
Hmm.
your current process? Hey, we can take away that 2 weeks of waiting for a VM. Let's give it 1 hour as opposed to that. What's your approvals? All right, let's just build that in and the right person gets it. So we're the technical guys who understand how to fix things. In my
So
space, it's a little bit different. So I do cloud cost and automation. So trying to get those two skills and being able to talk is unique.
So you're more technical than the sales guys. The sales guys are kind of just schmooze you, and then they say, yes, we can do whatever it is that you want. And then they call you and say, hey, shit, I just told this guy that we can do this. Can we do this? And you're either the yes or no guy. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah. So a sales guy will say, yeah, we can fix all your problems. And then they call you and go, can we fix all their problems? I'm not sure. Can you show them? So essentially we'll walk it through them and say, this is what we do. This is
Okay.
how we do it.
So perfect world. Sales guy gets a potential lead, calls you, says, hey, can we do this? You say, yes, you can. Deal goes through. They come on as a client. Now, do you still deal with them, or are you just pre-sales? Are you further support? How does that work? Do you train the rest of the team to then support whatever environment it is that you've implemented? How does that all work?
Short question, it depends.
Okay.
So from the time I chat to a customer and show them, there could be proof of concepts in between or proof of value, which means we deploy our SaaS product for them. They use it. We show them the value because, for me, important, showing and seeing is believing, as opposed to someone telling you a story and saying we can do it and then not being able to deliver. So we'll show it up front and say, hey, we can do it. Now you want to buy. Hurry up and buy.
Okay. So I look, like you said at the start, we've known each other for decades and we chat every day together as well as other people. And I have NFI about what you guys do. So give me an example of what it is that you talk about automation. When you talk to our other friend, you just geek out about stuff I have no idea about and I just walk away. So give me an example of a couple of deals that you've worked with. You don't need to name names, but in terms of the type of services you provide, help sell, help support, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, too easy. So one product we have is what we call Commander, or it's a cloud management platform. So essentially what it does, it gives the customer the ability to say, here's a catalog of services, and it could be VMs, it could be SaaS, it could be database deployments, applications, whatever it is. And we'll go through and say, all right, let's build out a catalog. What do you want to do? One company I worked with said, I'm sick of checking firewall ports and NSGs in Azure because I'm a network engineer and I don't want to have to log into all these places and work out what's blocked. I was like, got your fam, built out workflows, and I said, go to your VM, right click, say check ports, and put in the port number, hit go, and your user will then send you a report saying, this port is blocked here, and all you have to do is go enable. Next step after that is, how about we just let them enable it themselves, and we build it so that way they can go to a catalog and say, I would like this port open, hit go, someone says, approve, opens a port for them. So now the network engineer doesn't have to do it at all. So it's part of that automation piece, self-service, getting the guys to be more proactive, as opposed to always doing BAU stuff.
So for me, automation is a word that is bandied around a lot, and the definition in my head is almost like limitless. When someone says, "Oh, we can automate that," I kind of understand it, but I don't know as to how big the automation can be. Like how large can this automation piece go with the stuff that you're doing? Is it quite big, or is it more mid-scale? Like what sort of tasks do you automate?
So it is endless. So I usually tell a customer it's a choose your own adventure. So what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? When do you want to do it? Who's supposed to do it? We don't know all the answers, but what we can do is give you the capability to start filling in those gaps. So we do that for Azure, for AWS, could be VMware, could be ports on switches, could be creating users in Active Directory. It's, what do you want to do? You want to set up a new podcast and rename it and hit a button and let it go and do it. So we'll do that for you.
So this might not be your area. So then how does discussion around automation come about to where your sales guys would get a lead? Is someone coming in and looking at a business and running an audit and saying, hey, you guys are taking like 5 hours doing this task, whereas if you automate it, it could take 30 minutes, and then there's a lead there? Is that kind of how that works? Or is it, are you working with businesses that are small, or is it basically just enterprise level? Like that's all you deal with? Like who are your clients mainly?
So usually the discussion will start with cloud, because cloud is everything, and they'll talk to us about spend. So the sales guy will have a chat around how much you're spending, what do you want to do? I want to save money. Okay, how are you doing this today? Usually once I step in and I have a chat to them around process, procedures, etc., then I sort of work out, well, it all begins with how you're getting to cloud, as opposed to you're already there and you want to go backwards. So I usually drop in well, how are you doing this today? How long does it take and who's managing it? Because everyone can spin things fast in cloud, end of story. Click a button, there's a VM. Click a button, there's a database. Stop using it after a week and it still costs you money. So I usually go, well, can you life cycle it? Can you manage it? Who's managing it? And they sort of go, no one's managing it. We just do stuff.
Okay.
And that's how it gets there.
So when you talk about cloud, and again, what I'm trying to do moving forward, and this is for everything that I do now with this job I have, is I'm trying to, I don't like the term, but it works, like to dumb things down. Even though I'm a tech guy, I'm not a tech guy at your level or other people's levels that, we share mutual friends with. And so when you say, "Hey, I do cloud," I have a rudimentary understanding of what cloud is. So when I say to you, give me a definition of cloud as it pertains to your work, what are you talking about? Is it Azure? Is it Dropbox? Is it OneDrive? Is it Google? What is it? What is it specifically? Is it AWS? Is it something very specific? Give me the answer.
Technically, everything
Mm.
encompassed in cloud we do, and I'll do.
Okay. Okay.
But if I look at it from what I am the expert in my organization at Flexera, I would say it's other people's data centers, which is Amazon or Microsoft
Okay.
or Google, because technically all you're doing is putting your services in someone else's hosted infrastructure, and we just
Okay.
call it cloud.
So you're kind of like middleware, is that right? Like you're in the middle of two different things where you do stuff. So, here's their environment and this is what their outcome is. And you're kind of like in the middle doing all that stuff rather than having a guy manually do all the bits and pieces normally. Is that kind of
Yeah,
what it
so
is normally? Okay.
so imagine being a sysadmin and you're
Yep.
asked to, back in the day, rack this server up, install the OS, get this
Yep.
application on, connect it to here and there. So imagine being able to get a form and go Dropbox, 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 check, 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 name, go. And then an hour later you go, oh, there's all my infrastructure and it's done. And no one actually had to do anything. So that's what we help with.
Okay. 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 But it's by the sounds of it, it could be anything. Like as
Anything.
tiny as creating a user to spinning up multiple servers within an hour or so.
Yeah, so
Is
it
that
could be
kind of okay?
servers, could be users, security groups, common everyday tasks that people just don't want to do anymore. That's usually what I aim to automate first, purely because, one, we've been sysadmins and we know that it says, please add this user to this group. And you're like, yeah, right. And here's 500 more requests to do exactly the same thing. So why not just automate
Okay.
it and someone goes, I want to be here, and then it just does it.
Okay. So of the last 10 jobs that you've worked on that have gone through, what would they be? Like give me an example of the types of things that you automated, like the last 10 things.
Last 10. Oh, that's a tough one. So I've been doing more around integration work. So between the automation platform and our cost management platform. So that's been more for, can we show a cost for, say, private data centers? So VMware and Hyper-V. So that's what I've been focused on. But the last customers I've worked with have been around, how do we simplify the process for our users, for our customers, from an MSP level. We want them to be able to consume cloud, but we don't want them to get messy, and we want them to see how much they're spending and give them ease of use and ease of management without having to skill up and employ a ton of admins that know this stuff. Let's just give the end user access and build it. And it could be anything. So primarily it's VMs, and then it's just following the bouncing ball from end to end.
Okay. So again, this is a question that you may or may not know the answer to. So the costs of these automations, is that a runway where it's like, okay, it's going to be X amount up front and it'll pay itself off after 2 years, and then moving on from that, you'll be saving you'll be saving quite a lot, because instead of taking 5 hours, it takes like, I don't know, 20 minutes. Like, is that kind of how it works? Or is automation something that's actually quite affordable for like a medium-sized company or a small-sized company?
Yeah, look, it comes down to use cases. So if you're doing really easy things like you deploy a VM once in a while, then maybe having something like what we do is pointless, because it'll sit there, it'll cost you money, and you're not really using it. But when you're building out projects that last a couple of months and destroying them and then going on to the next project where you got lots of customers, like an MSP does, then it makes more sense. So I'd say small, medium business may not get the full value of it, only because the volumes. So when you talk volume, then you get the benefit.
Okay. So the more we talk, the more I think I kind of understand it. So you're basically a company that will create or can create like APIs between different programs that might not have a direct API. Is that kind of right in a way? But you automate that API process in terms of, if you enter something here, it also enters over there, but then you kind of stop having to, that section over there, that bit you automate, and just flows through the rest of it.
So
Is that kind of how it is?
look, we don't create the APIs, so we're
But
not.
that's like what you're doing. You're kind of like pushing it. You're
Yes.
making
So
them work together.
So call it a broker. There you go. That's
Okay.
probably the easiest way to do the
Oh,
CMP
yeah.
side. We broker the connections between any and all infrastructure, other software as well. You know, a lot of customers are now focused a lot heavier on their cloud spend. You know, naturally everyone's gone data center to cloud, get data center completely, and now they're going, we've got these massive bills. What do we do? And they're trying to work out how do we get our cloud spend, integrate that back with their SAP systems internally, who's spending what, and the big question is how do we stop spending? You know, and we'll use our software to help them stop spending. And that's not just for cloud spend, that could be for application licensing. So on laptops, desktops, servers, you know, their SaaS stuff, like, you know, your Office 365s, you know, everyone's going, hey, let's get this massive amount of licenses, and 10% of your workforce never even logs in. So we can tell you, hey, you should stop spending there.
Okay. All right. Well, that's enough about what you do. I think I know a little bit more. I reckon I'll probably have to sit on that one. The whole automation piece is still a bit furphy to me. So tell me about It's Flexera, isn't it? That's what they're called
Flexera,
now?
correct. Yes.
So tell me, give me some scope around that business in terms of size and employees and, you know, growth and that sort of stuff, if you know, obviously.
Yeah, so from what I know, because we were just acquired by Flexera, so we're looking at, I think it's around the 1,700 mark globally for employees.
Wow.
We're worldwide. We have a massive portfolio of products. So, you know, we help from, you know, your asset management, so both software, hardware. We can help you with your cloud migration tools, so placement, what should go where, but also telling you how servers link together. So you're not just moving a server to the cloud and going, why is nothing working anymore, which happens, through to your cost optimization. Security is a big piece as well. So we can show you where your risks are, outdated software, etc., your cloud spend, your cloud costs, how to reduce it, budgets, forecasts, and then obviously all the automation behind it. So it's a very broad portfolio of products that covers everything. And we sort of call that our technology intelligence platform, because it's not any one piece that gives you everything. It's just a bunch of data that you can bring together to say, hey, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and this is why you're spending so much money, and this is how you could do better. So the organization itself is more data driven than building out software to do everything for you. Let's get the data together, and how do you want to consume it? What do you want to do with it next? So,
Okay. So, boring stuff out of the way. Let's get to the matter.
right.
Really. So you've actually got an envious job that I think a lot of people that we know and people that that might be watching this are quite envious of. You know, you get paid well. You're working for a big successful company. You do it entirely from home. You don't even leave unless you are needed to, and if you do, sometimes it's a short drive to the city, or even better yet, it could be a trip to India or to America. So, one, how did you get that job?
So, funny story. So I was working in the city, you know, for a company, and I got a call out of the blue, and it's not for this company I was with. It was with another company, because I've been working from home for over 5 years now. I get a call, and it's a lady from Texas saying, hey, you're interested in this job? You know, and like all good people, I go, you know, whatever. It's a scam. You know, someone's offering you a job and it's fully remote. You know, you're living the dream.
Did you answer the call? Did she physically call you on your phone?
She called from Texas.
And it said it was from Texas on your phone.
Yeah, and I was like, I looked at it and went, huh. So I answered it, and they're like, oh, you know, blah blah blah. This company, here's what we do. You interested? And I was like, uh-huh.
How did you get your number?
LinkedIn.
Oh, do you have your number on LinkedIn, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess my profile fit what they were looking for. So at the time, I was doing a lot of VMware vRealize automation stuff, and it's hard to find people with those skills. So she called me out of the blue and said, no, it's a real job. I'll get the CIO to call you. And I laughed and went, okay. And I hung up and was like, whatever. And next day, CIO calls me. And I'm like, okay, I'll look him up on LinkedIn. I was like, oh, crap, it's a real person. So I was like, all right, let's have a chat to him. He's like, yeah, trying to find people with your skills, impossible, blah, blah, blah. 100% remote. How much money do you want? You don't even have to leave your house. And I was like, well, too good to be true. So I just, you know, I add like 10, 15 grand to my salary, and he's like, done. We'll get all the paperwork out. I was like, okay. I started working for this company, and it was legit. It was good as well. So, and I did a little bit of traveling with them. And that's sort of how I fell into the pre-sales side, because that got acquired by another company. And then I started filling in, because I was essentially the only guy in Victoria. It was just me and one other person in Brisbane, and that was it for the whole company in Australia. So there was no office, there was nowhere to go. Uh, and then eventually I just, went on to the next role, which has an office in Sydney, but again, 100% remote. And then we've been acquired, so the office is still in Sydney and now another office in Box Hill. So still 100% remote. And that's written into my contract as well. So it was just pure luck that I got this role. So, and I wasn't actively looking. It was just, they had a requirement. I had the right skills and here I am.
So how up to date was your LinkedIn profile at the time?
I was half contemplating looking for the next role. Um, so I sort of updated and I thought, I'll update it and, updated my Seek profile and updated my resume with what I've done where I was. And then it just must have triggered because it tells you when a profile's been updated. It must have just triggered that and they've just called me out of the blue and said, hey, you got the skills, you want a job?
That's amazing.
So,
Because you know how much I dislike LinkedIn at sometimes. It's a love-hate relationship I'm getting there. So it's interesting to hear that that you basically got headhunted. Like I know of a number of people that have found work that way, or not found work. Work has found them, but it's always been local. It rarely is it international. So
well,
so that's interesting to
both these
see.
jobs, so both of the remote jobs I've had were both headhunted. So the first one I was headhunted into, and then this one I'm in now, I was also called out of the blue and said, hey, we're looking for someone with your skills. Do you want a job?
So were you doing this during COVID, or like were you at a different job during COVID? Then you were obviously work from home, and then you just basically stayed there. Like how did that come about?
Yeah, so I was doing it before COVID with one company.
Okay. Yep.
And then halfway through COVID, got headhunted for the second job. And I just went, okay.
So how does it work with a US company? Is it any different? Like you get paid the same in terms of is it like weekly, fortnightly, monthly? Is it different with tax, like holidays? How holidays work? Do you get their holidays and Australian holidays? Like how does that all sort of come about?
So with the original working from home company I was with, they were 100% American based. And what they did is they used a law firm in Australia to be the, I guess, center part or the middle of that contract to say, you now have an employee and you get paid through this law firm and they report back to the American company.
Oh, okay. So you didn't actually get
So
paid by the company per se. You got paid by
no,
this law company.
yeah, same
Oh,
between.
wow. Okay,
So, which
interesting.
was weird because when we're doing the whole house thing and getting loans, I was like, how does that work with
Mm,
getting a home loan or whatever else? Because I don't technically, well, I'm working for a company being paid through another company.
mm.
So because they're lawyers, they drafted up all the letters for me, so that was fine.
Did
Um,
you was there a cut at all? Like, did they take a cut for this service? Were you like, hey, I'm on
I,
X amount, and then it's like, wait a minute, and it's like, oh yeah, that's because the lawyer company takes a bit. Like,
no,
you
so
didn't
I got
know?
paid my normal salary, and obviously they paid them a retainer to manage it.
Okay, yep.
So they had HR and everything here in their law firm, so everything was covered. But otherwise, 4 weeks annual leave as usual. All the
Oh,
Australian
that's
laws because
as usual here. Apparently in America, I
yeah,
think they only get 2 weeks. I'm not sure.
no. So in America, depending on the organization or company,
Uh,
you can get what's called unlimited leave.
I've heard about that. Yeah, I've heard of
So
some
it's
companies doing that.
yeah. So you could take a week here, a week there, but you might end up having if you keep up to date with your work, you could have 8 weeks of holidays, 10 weeks of holidays. Obviously, they frown upon you going, I'm going on holidays for 6 months. I'll see you
Mm.
in 6 months' time. But, because you don't always get to take your 4 weeks of annual leave every year. So if you did, 2 weeks one year and you might do 6 weeks the next, I don't think anyone is bothered by
Mm.
that.
So what about holidays? Like, do you get the American holidays off over there, or not really? Like, you still have to
No,
work. No.
still, it's just whatever Australian APAC we get.
Yep.
Obviously, they don't get our holidays. We don't get theirs. If they've shut down and I need their help, they've usually got someone on call, and that was back then. But otherwise, no, it's just Australian holidays. Wish it was all the
Um.
American holidays as well. How
Yeah.
much time I'd have off.
Yeah. I know, right?
I'd never be at work.
Yeah. So was this a BYOD job, or did they supply you with hardware? How did that work?
So both companies supplied me with laptops. And because I was doing a lot of scripting and developing work, they gave me like desktop replacement laptops. So like
Okay.
16 CPUs, 64 gig of RAM, they were massive chunky laptops. Um, I think I got one monitor from where I am now at Flexera. So, but otherwise I supplied my own keyboard,
Okay.
mouse, desk, chairs, other monitors, etc.
So from a security point of view, like, do they allow just your home IP, or you can basically work anywhere in the world? Like, is there a
Yeah,
VPN? Is it recognized, like your computer recognized regardless of where it is? Is it geo locked? Like, how does that work?
no, so I can work anywhere in the world. So there are certain countries that I can't work in because we don't do business in those countries,
Yep.
naturally. But otherwise, if I'm traveling overseas for work, they know I'm going there. Obviously, I'm going to have my laptop so I can work from wherever I am. If I'm going on holidays and I wanted to bring my laptop, I just have to let them know and make sure that it's not a country that they say, no, we can't do work in that country or do business there. But otherwise, yeah, there's no restrictions. So
Hmm.
if I want to go
Okay.
work in a cafe down the road, go work in a cafe down the road.
So how long have you been doing the whole work from home thing now? Like all up?
Just over 5 years, I think.
5 years.
Because I think
All right.
since February 2019.
Is it
So
still as good as it was initially? Like, are you still loving it? Like, give me your thoughts now after 5 years of working from
I'll
home and not seeing too many
look.
people.
It's look like anything. It's a novelty to start with. Yeah, like it was like, oh damn, I don't have to leave my house. I got so much time to do other stuff, and then eventually you start to realize that those water cooler chats that you used to have, the interruptions from other people, etc., provided you with other insights around what was happening in the business and doubling up for work, etc. So um, it's I'm not saying it's worn thin, but that initial, when you're in that love honeymoon phase of working from home, um, changes a little bit because now you go, well, you don't necessarily interact with people anymore. You know, do you want to talk? After a couple of years, you're like, do you really want to talk to people face to face? And I've seen lots of people sort of losing those social skills. They can't just go out and talk to people. Everyone's become sort of introverted, don't want to leave home. And I'm like, well, I do want to leave home and I do want to go talk to people still. So, and that's why I enjoy my role because I do get through Teams and Zoom and whatnot, that face to face and once in a while I travel. So I go see people in the office and go see customers. So I do still get the face to face. But a lot of people just don't want that anymore. They just say, I just want to sit at home, do my work, and they believe it's 9 to 5. My hours are never 9 to 5. So I'll be replying to emails like 10 o'clock at night, meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning, online at 6 a.m. messaging people.
Is that
It's not
a
nine
is
to
that
five.
an expectation, or is that just you as a worker?
I think that's just me as a worker. But I also look at it as if you were traveling an hour, 2 hours into the city and back each day, there's 2 to 4 hours of work time that you could be doing anyway, and you're
Mm,
losing at home. So I
yep.
go, well, if I work 10 or 12 hours, it's no different to me driving to the city and back.
Yeah. Good point.
So
Good point.
it sort of works itself out. But now you're looking at your salary and going, well, say you're getting 100 grand a year and working 70, 80 hours a week, you're actually getting paid a
It's
lot
not too.
less.
You mentioned face to face before. So you're talking digital face to face or actual face to face?
Uh, I I prefer actual face to face.
Yeah. Yeah.
So because it's you get to chat to people and you have a laugh and meeting
Yep.
someone in person is a lot different to say interacting through Zoom every day.
Mm.
So I much prefer the face to face because it's more personal. Whereas through Zoom, I could pause my
Mm.
screen and make it look like I'm at my desk and walk away and nobody knows. Whereas you can't really walk away when you chat to someone in
So,
person.
so how much opportunity do you have to do that, like the physical or in real life face to face with what you're doing now? Do you try and get out? Are you like out when you need to be out? Like, you know, do you look at doing it, or are you like, if it has to be done, it has to be done?
Look, I haven't traveled to the new Box Hill office that I'm a part of now yet, only because it's like a 2.5 hour drive there. But if I wanted to, I could go there once a week. I can go more than once a week if I wanted to. It's just that 6 hours of travel, which is the sort of the deal breaker there. But otherwise, if everyone was in the city, like a previous company, when they acquired another part of the company, there was, if you remember, Michael Salio. So I used to catch up with him in the city and their team there. So, once in a while we'd all catch up. So it was nice face to face, get to meet, sit down with the team and talk crap, about and talk about customers and what they're doing and how we're doing it and next deals and what we've lost and what competitors are doing. So it's that conversation that you start to miss out on if you're not in person. And that's that water cooler chat, you
Mm.
learn new things and bits of information.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So aside from, obviously the human interaction that you obviously lose, like what else are you starting to dislike from working from home? Or what have you accepted in terms of, okay, well, it is what it is.
Yeah, so look, it's if you think that going to an office is full of distractions and you won't get your work done, home can be just as distracting. Like you said, there's a guy now, chainsawing a tree down. It's like
Yeah.
neighbors decided to get lawnmower out, and mid meeting, there's you got your window open and he's outside with the lawnmower going and a whippersnipper. So then you've got can you go do this, or oh crap, I've got people coming over to drop this off and knocking at the door. So there's a lot of distractions at home anyway. Whereas at work, the distractions could lead to more information around what you're doing and how you're doing it. Whereas at home, it's usually you get interrupted while you're focused and they try to refocus. So there's pros and cons to both. If I had a closer office, I'd go into the office here a couple of days a week, purely because then I'd have people to talk to and it'd be purely work related as opposed to just disruptions during the day.
Okay. So question. So if given the time again, and there was an opportunity to do the job that you're doing now, fully work from home, or there was an opportunity to work at an office where, let's just say, the travel time was offset by additional salary. So it was kind of like if you're traveling 30 minutes in, 30 minutes out, the salary will reflect that. Which would you rather go for? Again, doing the same thing. The only difference is that one, you're totally at home, or two, you're totally in the office.
Okay, so and that's a tough one because I think it comes down to company culture. So
Let's
if I
just
had
say
to
the
do it
company's
again,
good. The company's good. So,
is
your
it?
Flexera is obviously good now. The only difference is
Yes,
one's entirely at home, one's entirely in the office.
I would say that I wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Just from everything I've been through and learned. I've been fortunate enough that the companies I work for, the teams I'm a part with, they're good at communicating. So we're always chatting like we do every day. I do the same thing with the guys in my team. HR always reaches out and says, "Hey, how's everything going? You want to chat? If you need anything, reach out." There's always something happening, so that makes you feel more included or part of the team. I think if the culture wasn't that way and you sort of were sitting at home and you're just programming and there was no one to reach out to, there was no banter, then 100% I'd want to go in the office. So
Okay.
it really comes down to that. So
I want to circle back. God, I hate that term.
circle back.
You circle back. I want to
I
circle
want to
back.
I want to rewind.
My God, seriously. Whoever talks like that.
You've been
Okay,
looking
so
at LinkedIn too much.
I actually do want to circle back to the time where you actually got the job. So you were headhunted through LinkedIn,
Yes.
but you mentioned that you were kind of looking at potentially other opportunities at the time anyway. So what were you planning on doing? I think heaps of people would want to work from home and get paid lots of money, and and work for a boss that they don't you know they don't really have next to them. So what would be your advice for people to look for jobs like that? Like, is there, like, apart from LinkedIn, like, what were you going to do to, you mentioned Seek really quickly. You mentioned a little bit of LinkedIn. Was there anything else that you were going to do to try and, find this ultimate job of working from home for a lot of money in
Yeah.
your
So
underwear?
ideally, I wasn't even looking for a work from home job at all. So it just happened that way. But if I was to say go back and go, I'm just going to look for a work from home job. One, have to wait till COVID happens, so that way everyone's forced to work from home.
Mm.
So, and that's why we are where we are today. I
Mm.
just happened to be lucky enough to get that before COVID. If you're looking for a work from home job, it's a difficult one because there's a lot of trade-offs. Okay, money's great, you get to be at home, and the positives are more time with family. I could do school drop-offs and pickups. I can do, daughter goes and does martial arts. I could take her to martial arts and to swimming and whatnot. Uh, but you miss that interaction with people. So you may miss specific information that's pertinent to your job. That's the trade-off. Whereas I found in the office, people were there, they could ask you questions, you could ask them questions, you always, catch up with them having a coffee, you can go out and have that coffee with people as well. So I personally, if you're already in the city or already in a company where you're traveling to and from work every day, Moving to a work from home job doesn't mean it's better.
Hmm.
So it just means it's different and there's different trade-offs.
So you're probably in the environment more than most. So are work from home tech jobs still a big thing? Are there lots out there in terms of what you do, or are they starting to push people? I know that in Australia, you know, everyone's getting forced back into the office, but I think the tech industry is slightly different. Um, from what you can see and from people that you've spoken to, and I'm talking globally here, not just Australia, is there still quite a market for a job market for people that are wanting to work from home in your specific line of work for companies around the world?
Yeah, so like I still get LinkedIn messages, and whenever I log into LinkedIn, I see all the jobs that are currently going. Yeah, there's still definitely a lot of jobs out there that have remote as a part of their requirements. So it's there, um, but there may be a trade-off in salary now because they're looking at it going, well,
Ah,
you can work from home, but you're not going to get paid as much, because you don't have to travel, you don't have any other expenses around your job apart from being at home. But having said that, they're there. How to get them? You just have to be the right person, with the right qualifications.
so how in terms of salary, is it dictated by America and what the going rate is there, or is it based on, say for example, the lawyer that was paying you? Are they the ones that will say, hey, well, he's working from home, he doesn't need to park, he doesn't need to spend money for petrol, therefore this is what we're going to offer him? Or is it America where they're just like, oh, okay, a company's now got suddenly $1 billion of funding. We're just going to hire as many engineers as we can, and they're each going to get 250 each.
So I think it's a bit from column A and a bit from column B. So
Okay.
as we've seen, there's a ton of companies that span up a heap of workers and they were getting paid a lot of money, and now they no longer exist. So that was happening, definitely.
Yep.
Um, right now, it's what I've seen and what I get paid on is whatever the current market is in the country. So
Okay.
I get paid according to market rates.
Okay.
So it's
Cool.
not that I get paid a lot less because I'm at home or a lot more because I'm at home. It's just what's the
What
market
it is.
saying? It'll cost us more to have an office with more people in it. So we'll just pay market rates.
Yeah. Yep. Um, so outsourcing is always a huge thing in our industry, usually for some of the lower level jobs, but now starting to creep into very, very technical roles. And with that, obviously, comes a certain level of salary expectation from the employer side in terms of hiring. So how has that affected your role? Has it affected it at all? Like, are you working more with outsourced staff? Are you still pretty much the same? Can you see outsourced staff being part of your team, so to speak?
Yeah. So look, I think that, oh, good question. How do I answer it without offending everyone? So,
No one's
no,
watching
look,
this. It's fine. We'll get one
all
view. It's all
right,
good.
all good. No, so look, outsourcing is going to be there all the time. And now that we've been through COVID and the realization that, hey, we can have people sit at home, work, it's a non-issue. So, and previous org, yeah, I had people I was working alongside that were sitting, say, in India, and doing similar roles. And I've got, right now I've got colleagues who sit in India, who sit in Singapore. It's there. Singapore's probably not the best example because they're just as expensive as us. But they're still outsourcing because they just have a requirement in those regions. But for more along the lines of, say, support work, engineering, so development work, I've seen a lot more outsourcing going to, say, Philippines and India and those types of countries, purely because one, you can get a lot of engineers and a lot of capacity for not as much money. So, imagine having a $200,000, developer sitting here in Australia, or you can have two or three people in India with a similar level of skills. Now you got three times the delivery capacity. So that's happening. So less so
Hmm.
in my area because
Okay.
I need to be in region, but more so in general IT.
Okay. So when you say that you need to be in region, how would that pose as an advantage for you versus, say, someone in the Philippines that has the same amount of technical expertise, especially if you're if you're working from home. When you say regions, like, are you expected to then visit the client at some point, or just they need to have certain coverage in a particular part of the globe?
Yeah, so look, for me, I cover APAC, so Australia, New Zealand, and Asia Pacific in general, just everywhere. If it was just an Australia, New Zealand role, then you'd have someone in Australia and New Zealand. And usually that's so that way they're close to the customer. So when they have a chat to me, I go, oh yeah, I'm based out in wherever, out in Victoria or in New South Wales. And they go, oh yeah, I've been there. And it generates that conversation. But if they were someone sitting in Manila and, they went, oh yeah, I live in Manila. I've never been outside of the Philippines, and trying to work with someone in Australia. And the classic example is all the support for, say, Telstra and Optus when you call them was all outsourced to the Philippines for a while. And customers weren't happy that it was outsourced because they wanted someone in Australia. And I think that's what's happening at the moment, is that a lot of people are being hired back in country and in regions. So that way you have that person there. If they need to send me to the city, I can. If I need to go to Sydney, it's not that big a deal. And I can go see the customer, and I can attend events here as well.
Okay. So it's basically boots on the ground, regardless of your skill set. The fact that you're there, even though you could basically service any client anywhere in the world, the fact that you're there is kind of like what's ticking their box. That's interesting.
Yeah,
interesting
and in the right hours. So because obviously Perth's a couple of hours ahead of us, they're behind us. And New Zealand's the other way. So you're in that sweet spot of that time zone to cover Australia and New Zealand. Whereas if you have someone outside in a different country, their operating hours might just be that little bit off, where you go, oh, well, they're going to have to start at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. How many staff members do you need to cover Australia and New Zealand? Just so that way you can save a bit of money on the outside.
Okay. So in terms of your actual role itself in Flexera, what would be what could be the next moves in terms of you're in pre-sales? Are there any other parts within, what's the next step for your role? Is it a manager role? Is it more technical? Do you want to do it entirely something else within Flexera? Like what have you seen with what you're doing where you go, okay, well, that looks to be a pretty good next step for me?
To be honest, I haven't actually thought about it too much because I enjoy what I do. So I guess logical next step, because Flexera was slightly different structure to what Snow Software was in regards to solution consulting or solution engineering. But obvious next step, if you're going to move from my type of role, would be into either sidestep to a different product altogether, or move into a leadership type role. So, become director of the solution team. But otherwise, I haven't really given it a lot of thought. So only because, one, I enjoy what I do and I get a lot out of it because I get customers and talk to them, and I get the technology and the geeky part. So, awesome mix.
So is this a forever job for you, you think? Like, is this going to be the next thing, the last thing that you do, or at least type of thing that you do for the next 20 years?
I don't know. So I thought about becoming a handyman. So, just going around and fixing stuff, but...
Absolutely not knocking that.
Yeah. So, but look, I don't know. I don't know if I'll stay in IT forever. I would say that there's always going to be demand and a need for people in IT, but direction, it could be, my next step could be to learn more around AI, because that seems to be what's up and coming now. So less around the technology we're doing, but how do we augment data with artificial intelligence? That could be something I look into. But otherwise, I'd prefer to go work outside, honestly, than sit behind a desk all day.
Yeah, I agree there. So let's just talk a little bit about AI. So has that actually started to be introduced in what it is that you do, or have you started to use it yourself, other than, Chat GPT, funny prompts and that sort of stuff? Like, are you using it now?
Yeah, so some of our products have some machine learning backing to it, to be able to look at data and normalize it and understand it and make recommendations against it. So it's in our products now. We do have... Is that
proprietary, or is that part of the normal sets that are available?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't worked in that team. So I think what they do is they'll grab a Chat GPT type thing, but it's in-house.
Yep.
Because we don't want to send data out to the web and say, here's all the customer data now available to everyone. So we have our own type of Chat GPT where you can type in a question and it'll convert it to database language and give you information back with graphs and charts and stuff. We have that to forecast as well, so we can normalize your spend. So it's already there. It's going to get bigger.
So
So
in a way, let's just fast forward 5 to 10 years, and let's just say that you're still in that job. There's a good chance that AI can actually be doing your job, right? Because that's the pre-sales part. It's them asking you, saying, "Hey, can this be done?" Whereas the sales guys are kind of like, "Hey, I'll just ask this, work GPT thing. I won't need this Dennis guy anymore." And that's kind of what it is, right? You think at the end of the day,
yeah. Oh, look, I think it depends. If you want that human interaction from company to company and actually sit down and talk to someone, then AI is never going to replace that.
oh,
But if you're
I was
talking
talking to someone about that. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
in person, you're going to have that with these
Oh, in
robot
person, yeah,
buddies.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, but I think that support could get replaced by AI purely because if the AI is trained up enough on your applications and problems, then solving them will be quick. I can't do this. Oh, here's the fix. Here's how you do it. Here's links to whatever, and it's done. Nice and fast. From my job, yeah, I think that someone could trigger. We're going to do a proof of concept for this customer. Let's just press a button, and essentially the customer will just work with a chatbot and say, do this and do this and do this, and now you see this, and walk them through, and then generate the videos and PowerPoints and everything, and play it all back. Yeah, that's absolutely a possibility. So it's a
Okay.
scary possibility, but it's there.
All right. Well, let's take this home. Let's wrap it all up. So, getting back to this working title, which I'm still to finalize. You work for a $1 billion US tech company from regional Australia, sometimes in your underwear. If a person is wanting to do exactly the same thing as you, how would they go about doing it? Give us the bullet points.
Uh, be yourself, work to your strengths, make sure your LinkedIn profile's up to date, make sure your resume is up to date on Seek and available. Make sure that your background is relevant. Putting things in of that I work for this company and this is what they do, is great. Put in more around this is what I have done, this is how I've done it, this is what I've achieved, this is who I've helped, because then it's about you. Because I see a ton of LinkedIn profiles that gives you a lot of info, but nothing about what have you actually done yourself. And that's what people want to see. What can you do to contribute to our organization? Why should I give you that next role? And if they can see it and they go, okay. Now, my LinkedIn profile, my opening statement isn't even really work related. It's just I don't really subscribe to the norm, I guess. So maybe that's what made me stand out, because I didn't put in the here, ChatGPT, write me an introduction for LinkedIn, which is what
Yeah.
everyone's doing. And then you
Yep.
read it and you go, yeah, that was ChatGPT. So I've just, typed stuff up around, oh yeah, I just like helping people, and I get a lot around helping people. Uh, Apart from that, yeah, just have a good attitude towards it. If someone gives you a call and wants to talk about a job, just talk to them as if they're a person.
Mm.
Try and do it less like an interview, more like a informal chat.
Mm.
I've found that works better for me, especially in technology,
Yeah.
because 99% of the time they're hiring you as a fit for the organization, and then secondary is your technical ability.
Mm. Yeah, we're all squares, aren't we? We're a bunch of
Yeah,
nerds.
that's it.
Actually, one last question before we go. So, how was the interview process with all the companies, with all the American companies? You just through Zoom? Like, was there anything different to what you would have expected from an Australian company? Is if it was done through Zoom also?
Yeah, so imagine having a usual interviews. You have your one-to-one with one person, and then you chat in the HR. Then you might chat to some people in the team. Worked similarly. So spoke to HR. I spoke to the CIO. Then I had essentially a boardroom meeting through Zoom with the whole team, and they just threw questions at me about, have you done this? How do you do this? What do you do? What about this tech? It was very tech heavy, the first one. But it was lighthearted. So everyone had a good laugh. And, if you didn't know it, I just said, oh, look, I don't know. I haven't done that before. No clue. And they were like, okay, done. Offer the job. Where I am now, so it's no software. I think I spoke to nearly nearly a dozen people in the organization, right through from HR in Australia through to team members and leadership in Australia to VPs and directors in the US as well. So there was just a lot of phone calls at odd times just to get a feel for everything. And I was happy to give them my time because one, it was about me making sure that I was getting the right role, the right fit for the organization. So because I can decline it just as quickly as they can. So I was happy to chat to everyone, and I was honest, and I just said, why work for Snow? Why work for Flexera? Why work for whatever company it is? And I just said, just be honest. Is it a good place to work? Is there any problems? So, and they were pretty candid, which was good.
Cool. I think that's all the questions I've got for now. Thank you so much, dude, for doing this. I had a lot
That's
of
all
fun.
good.
It's actually the most formal conversation we've ever had. We didn't go into
Yes.
conspiracy theories. We didn't swear too much,
No.
which is pretty good. But now I'm going to stop this so that we can actually do all of that stuff now. I'll chat to you
All
later on.
right.
See ya.
Thanks. Bye.